Hi friends, in this video we will read biology section of Lucent. Our topic today is genetics. We will first understand this chapter and then we will solve questions based on it. Let's start. Transmission of character from one generation to next generation is called heredity. The process of transfer of hereditary character from one generation to generation to generation is called genetics. The name genetics was coined by W. Watson in 1905. Jones was first who used the name gene in 1909. Gregor John Mendel was the first one who gave the idea of heredity based on his experiment in 1822 to 1824. He is also known as father of genetics. Mendel chose a pea plant for his experiment. Mendel made a cross between two pure plants having contrasting character for single trait called monohybrid cross, that is tall and dwarf plant for height. So what Mendel did, he made a cross between two pure plants, and that plant was a pea plant having contrasting character for a single trait. Single trait was height. And contrasting character was one was tall and other was dwarf. So it was called monohybrid cross because single physical trait, that is height, was considered. So you can see the diagram, monohybrid cross. He took tall plant, which is symbolized as TT, capital T, into dwarf plant, small t. Now I'll try to make you clear this cross-pollination through a diagram of F1 and F2 generation. Let's see it through the diagram. In the first generation, he took one tall and one dwarf planet. Tall, that is capital T, and dwarf, that is small t. Here TT gametes, and here small t gametes. So he took two gametes because pea plant is diploid. They have two sets of chromosomes. So the result in the first generation he got was capital T, again capital T, here capital T, and capital T, small t. So here capital T became dominant, that is tall characteristics of the plant becomes dominant over recessive character, that is dwarf, denoted by small t. So in the first generation Mendel got all tall plants. Now in the second generation, what he did self-pollination of the first generation plant, that is he took capital T, resultant generation of F1 generation plant, and he did pollination. Here the gametes were capital T and capital T. Now here we'll make a square diagram to understand this pollination. Let's make the square. This T, capital T and small t here, and this capital T and small t here. So in the first he got capital T, then capital T, again capital T, and then small t. So here he got three tall plant and one dwarf plant. And you can see here the ratio. Phenotypic ratio means Physical characteristics of the plant. Physical characteristics of the plant. Here, three plants are tall. That is, capital T denotes tall plant because the small t is a recessive trait. So he got three tall plant and one dwarf plant. That is why the phenotypic ratio is 3:1. Now let's see what is genotypic ratio. Genotypic ratio, see here, first he has capital T plant, and this is only one plant are like capital T and capital T. Again, capital T and small t, we have two types of plant, and then small t only one types of plant. So the genotypic ratio is the gene responsible for that physical character. So they are in the ratio of 1:2:1 because we have one gene of capital T, two gene of capital T, small t, and only one gene of small t and small t. So genotypic ratio is the gene responsible for that physical character. Now dihybrid cross. Mendel made a cross between two pure plants having two pair of contrasting character. In monohybrid cross, we took one pair of contrasting character. That was just the height. But here we are taking two pair of contrasting character. One is the color and the other is shape of seed, called dihybrid cross. He made a cross between plant having round seed with yellow color and wrinkled seed with green color. Round and yellow seed, that is capital R and capital R, capital Y and capital Y for yellow seed. Wrinkled and green. For wrinkled, he used capital R, and for green, small y, small y. Gametes here in round and yellow seed are capital R and capital Y. And in the wrinkled and green gamete are small r, small y. He did cross pollination. In the first generation, he got the resultant plant was of capital R, small r, capital Y, small y gene. So all are round and yellow seed in the first generation. Then in the F2 generation, he took plant from the F1 generation, and here two plants from the same generation, and he did say self-pollination. And the result you can see in the box. First he got 9 round and yellow plant, 3 round and green plant, 3 wrinkled yellow plant, and only 1 wrinkled green plant. So you can see that phenotypic ratio of F2 generation is in the ratio 9:3:3:1. And then genotypic ratio is 1:2:1:2:4:2:1:2:1. I earlier told you that genotypic ratio is the gene responsible for that physical character, all that different gamete combination. So here we got this genotypic ratio. On the basis of mono and dihybrid cross, Mendel proposed law of heredity. First, law of paired unity. Mendel proposed that when two dissimilar unit factors are present in an individual, only one is able to express. One that expresses itself is dominant unit factor, while other, which fail to express, is a recessive unit factor. For example, in the F1 generation, tallness is dominant. Tallness that was denoted by capital T is dominant over dwarfness that was denoted by small t. Second, law of dominance. Offspring of crossbred plant only show dominant characters in F1 generation. We saw in the monohybrid cross that offspring of crossbreed in the first generation, when we did cross pollination, only dominant characters were shown in F1 generation. That is, all plants were tall. And in dihybrid cross also, we saw that first offspring of F1 generation, all the plants were round and yellow seed. Third, law of segregation. In F2 generation, both the character, which is governed by gene, is separated. Law of independent assortment. During dihybrid and trihybrid cross, 2 or 3 pair of characters are taken. These characters segregate separately without depending on other in F2 generation. Now let's see term related to genetics. Linkage. Linkage is an exception of Mendel law when 2 different genes are present on the same chromosome. When 2 different genes are present on same chromosome, they express themselves together instead of independently. The phenomenon is known as linkage. The word linkage was first coined by Morgan in 1910. Next, mutation. A sudden change in the gene which is heritable from one generation to other. The term mutation was first coined by Hugo de Vries. So mutation is a sudden change in gene which is heritable from one generation to other. Next, variation. When characters are transmitted from one generation to next generation, there is some change. Change in characters by recombination of gene in offsprings takes place. They looks different from the parents. This phenomena is known as variation. Next, chromosomal aberration. There is any change in chromosomal structure is known as chromosomal aberration. Next term is cloning. Cloning is a process of producing many identical organisms from a single cell having same genetic character as his mother. For example, sheep dolly. So cloning is the process of producing many identical organisms from single cell having same genetic character as his mother. Example, sheep dolly was produced from single cell. That means from her mother. Next term is totipotency. So totipotency is the potential ability of a plant cell to grow in a complete plant. Pluripotency. Pluripotency, it is the potential ability of a cell to develop into any kinds of cell of animal body. Next, genetically modified organism. Manipulation of gene by cutting or joining the segment of DNA to get desired varieties of organism is called genetically modified organism. This is also known as genetic engineering. Next, autosomes. Chromosomes found in cell which are responsible for characters other than sex are called autosomes. So what are autosomes? Chromosomes found in cell which are responsible for characters other than sex. Now sex chromosome. The pair of chromosomes which determine the sex of organism is called sex chromosomes. Humans have 23 pair of chromosomes in which 22 pair are autosomes and 1 pair is sex chromosome. Next, genome. All gene present in a haploid cell is called genome. Plasma gene. Gene are found in organelles found in cytoplasm are called plasma gene. Cistron. Functional unit of gene is called cistron. Next, muton. Unit of gene responsible for mutation is called muton. Next, recon. Recon is the unit of gene which take part in recombination. S. Benzer in 1962 had given the modern definition of gene. The gene which exhibits multiple effects is called pleiotropic. Next, when one gene pair hide the effect of other unit, it is called epistasis. DNA fingerprinting is a technique used for the detection of disputed parentage. Next, reverse transcription was discovered by Tamin and Baltimore. Next, targeted drug delivery and gene therapy are made possible by the use of nanotechnology in health sector. Now let's solve the questions based on it. First question, who is the father of genetics? Answer, Mendel. Next, the term gene was given by? Answer, Johnson. Next question, the name genetics was first coined by? And the answer is W. Watson. Next question, unit of heredity is? Answer, gene. Next, Mendel worked on Answer, garden pea. Next, which one is an exception to Mendel's principle of dominance? And the option are wild pea, mirabilis, green pea, and maize. And the answer is option B, mirabilis. Next question. DNA fingerprint is a technique used for detection of, and the options are Alzheimer's disease, disputed parentage, AIDS, or yellow fever. And the answer is option B, disputed parentage. Next, change in the base sequence with the gene is called, answer is mutation. Next, the golden rice contains beta-carotene gene which comes from, and the answer is daffodil. Next, the term mutation was introduced by, and the answer is Hugo de Vries. Next, the smallest unit of genetic material which produces a phenotype effect on mutation list is, and the option are muton, gene, recon, or nucleic acid. Answer here is muton. Next, law of dominance is called, the option are law of uniformity of first filial generation, dominance, law of purity of gametes, and none of these. The answer is law of uniformity of first filial generations. Next question. Plant breeding is a technique of improving. Options are agricultural crops, fodder crops, fruit varieties, or all of the above. And the answer is option D, all of the above. Next. In India, earliest work in the field of plant breeding was initiated by, and the option are Rao, Barlog, or Vavilov. And the answer is option B, Barber. Next, which one is an improved variety of wheat? Options are 77, Sonalika, Chandramukhi, or Kuber. And the answer is option B, Sonalika. Next, name an improved variety of maize. Answer is Jawahar. Next, first successful pollen culture was done by. Options are Guha and Maheshwari, Swaminathan, B.P. Pal, H.Y. Mohan, Ram. And the answer is option A, Guha and Maheshwari. Next, pioneer worker in plants tissue culture is, answer is Haberland. Next, dwarf wheats were developed by, and the answer is Borlong. Thanks for watching, and if you like the video, please like, share, and subscribe to this channel.